Picture an ordinary Tuesday evening. A group of friends is gathered around a table. Nothing dramatic, just dinner, easy conversation, the kind of night that looks perfectly fine from the outside. Someone makes a joke you do not find funny. You laugh anyway. Someone shares an opinion you quietly disagree with. You nod. Someone asks what you have been up to, and you give the short, acceptable version. Not the real one, not the one with the complicated feelings still attached to it. Nobody notices. The evening moves on. You go home feeling somehow slightly less than when you arrived. That feeling is worth paying attention to. It is not loneliness in the obvious sense. You were surrounded by people. It is something more specific, the faint exhaustion of having been present without being there, of having performed belonging rather than experienced it. This is where the real conversation begins. We tend to think of approval seeking as a weakness in obviously anxious people, the ones who apologize too much, who shrink in rooms, who cannot say no without a paragraph of explanation. But that framing misses most of the territory. Approval seeking is often quiet, competent, and socially invisible. It looks like being easy to get along with. It looks like reading the room well. It looks like emotional intelligence. And sometimes it is those things. But sometimes it is something else entirely. A long-running habit of making yourself smaller so that the people around you stay comfortable, stay close, and keep approving. The psychologist Alfred Adler spent much of his life thinking about the tension between the individual and the community. In his work, particularly in what became Understanding Human Nature, he explored how deeply human beings need to belong, not as a preference, but as something close to a psychological necessity. That need is not a flaw. It is part of what makes us human. But Adler also noticed something important. The need to belong can become distorted. When a person feels fundamentally uncertain about their own worth, when they carry a quiet, unexamined sense that they are somehow not quite enough, they often begin to manage that feeling by managing other people's impressions of them. They stop asking what they actually think and start asking what will land well. They stop choosing and start adjusting. Adler described this not as weakness, but as a kind of misdirected courage. Energy that could go toward genuine contribution being redirected towards self-protection instead. Here is the part that makes this difficult to see clearly. It works. Editing yourself for approval is not irrational. It produces results. People do like you more when you agree with them. Conversations do go more smoothly when you absorb friction rather than create it. You do get invited back, included, kept in the circle. So the habit reinforces itself. Every time you swallow the real opinion and offer the acceptable one, and the room stays warm, your nervous system files that away as evidence. This is how it is done. This is how you stay safe. The cost is slow and cumulative. It does not arrive as a single dramatic loss. It arrives as a gradual narrowing, a slow drift away from your own preferences, your own reactions, your own sense of what matters. One day you realize you are not entirely sure what you actually think about something because you have spent so long thinking about what you are supposed to think. That is not a character flaw. It is a learned strategy that has outlived its usefulness. There is a particular version of this that lives online, and it is worth naming directly. When you scroll through other people's lives, the achievements, the gatherings, the confident self-presentation, something happens that is more complicated than simple envy. You are not just comparing outcomes. You are comparing the version of yourself you actually live with to the version of other people they have chosen to show. And the version they show has been edited, selected, and optimized for approval in exactly the same way you edit yourself in conversation. You are watching other people's masks and feeling inadequate about your own face. The gap that opens up is not really about their life being better than yours. It is about the exhausting distance between who you are and who you feel you need to appear to be. That distance is what makes your own life feel smaller. Not their success, but your own accumulated self-editing. This is why the answer is never simply to log off. The habit lives in you, not in the platform. So what actually changes anything? Adler's answer, translated into plain language, is something like this. Belonging that costs you your dignity is not really belonging. It is a transaction. And transactions, unlike genuine connection, leave both parties slightly diminished. Real belonging, the kind that actually satisfies the need, requires you to show up as something more than a mirror for other people's comfort. It requires contribution. Not performance, not compliance, but actual participation, bringing your real perspective, your honest reaction, your actual self, into contact with other people and allowing the friction that sometimes produces. That sounds simple. It is not easy. Because the moment you stop editing yourself, you face the fear that was always underneath the there. Editing. What if, when people see the real version, they like it less? What if the approval disappears? That fear is real. It deserves to be taken seriously, not dismissed. Some people will in fact prefer the edited version. Some relationships are built on the comfortable fiction of you, and they will feel different when you stop maintaining it. But here is what Adler's thinking keeps returning to. A life organized around preventing disapproval is a life that never quite gets to be lived. The energy spent managing impressions is energy not spent building anything real. Not real work, not real relationships, not a real sense of who you are. There is a small practical question worth sitting with after this video. Not a dramatic one. Not a question that requires you to overhaul your personality or announce yourself differently to everyone you know. Just this. In the next conversation you have, one that matters even slightly, is there one thing you actually think that you would normally leave unsaid? Not to be provocative, not to create conflict for its own sake, but because it is true, and because you are allowed to be someone who says true things. That is the beginning, not a transformation. Just a small act of participation that does not require you to abandon your own dignity to complete it. Adler believed that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to contribute anyway, to bring yourself into contact with the world, even when the outcome is uncertain. That kind of courage does not announce itself. It shows up quietly, in ordinary conversations, on unremarkable Tuesday evenings, in the small choice to say the real thing instead of the safe thing. The version of you that laughs at jokes you do not find funny, agrees before you have finished, thinking, and gives the short acceptable answer. That version is not protecting you. It is just keeping you comfortable in a space that is slowly getting smaller. You do not have to blow anything up to change that. You just have to start taking up the space you are already entitled to. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. And self-respect, it turns out, is the only foundation on which genuine belonging can actually be built. If this landed somewhere real for you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring these ideas, Inside the Labyrinth is here every week. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.